I'm Ozzy Gonzalez, presiding officer for the TriMet Board of Directors. This is my first run. Thanks for that, Director Edwards. Welcome, everyone, to the Board of Directors meeting for June 28th, 2023. Today's meeting is being held at the University of Oregon's downtown Portland campus in Old Town, and we are also streaming the meeting on YouTube. So hello and good morning to everyone online. Before we get going, I'd like to first take a moment to introduce two new board members to the Board of Directors. First, let's see, to my, out in the audience, we have Robert Kellogg, who is the new board representative for District 3. Welcome, Robert. And District 3 covers Southwest Portland, parts of Beaverton, Tigard, Tualatin, and Sherwood. It's great to have you. And Director Kellogg will be joining us officially on July 1st. So this is the preview. It'll be great to have you at next month's board meeting. Also, to my right, we have Tyler Frisbee joining the board today. Director Frisbee represents District 4, which primarily covers Southeast Portland and Milwaukee. And Tyler's replacing Director Lori Irish Bauman, whose term expired last month. And Robert replaces Board President Linda Simmons, whose term has also come to a close. Welcome to you both. And now we have, do we have any board members virtual? I think everyone else is here today in person. Wonderful. We have made accommodations for virtual participation for members of the public who wish to provide public testimony this morning and who could not be here in person. And I do believe we have at least one person who has signed up for a virtual testimony today. And as I call on people, let's see here. And now we're going to begin the public forum. However, we're going to begin with those who are present and have signed up to testify. I will be calling on people in order of appearance. I will call two at a time, as there is room for two folks at the testimony table. So if you hear your name, please step on up and turn on the microphone. I believe we have 3 minutes for each testimony today, and I ask that you honor that time and be respectful so that everyone has time. Let's see here. So the testimonies, do we have folks that have signed up to testify this morning? Oh, very good. I do have here a public forum request from Eli. Richie? Please, come on up. And that is the only testimony I have today. Eli, you have 3 minutes this morning. Welcome. I remember. Good morning.
Done a lot of stuff. Thanks, guys. How are you guys today? I'll try to keep this short. Thank you. All right. Okay, so good morning, everybody. Esteemed members of the TriMet board. My name is Eli Ritchie. I'm here today to share my personal experience of facing retaliation for exercising my fundamental right to engage in First Amendment activities. I appreciate the opportunity to address this matter, as it is crucial to uphold the principles of free speech and protect individuals from any form of retribution. It's not really easy for me to be here, but I made it. As an advocate for open dialogue and civic engagement, I've actively participated in various forms of First Amendment activities within the community, including peaceful protest, public assemblies, and expressing my views on social and political issues. Unfortunately, I find myself in a distressing situation where I've become a target of retaliation due to my exercising of these fundamental rights. Allow me to provide some context. In my pursuit of fostering positive change, I've been vocal about issues concerning public transportation, specifically TriMet. I firmly believe in the importance and the inclusion of an accessible transportation system that serves the diverse needs of our community. Consequently, I have expressed my concerns, offered constructive feedback, and engaged in public discussions regarding TriMet policies and practices. Regrettably, instead of being met with open dialogue and a willingness to address these concerns raised, I've faced various forms of retaliation. I've had to fight in court in order to clear my name. Unfortunately, allegations are amplified in the media, and the outcomes of those cases, the reversal of those cases, are not made public. The First Amendment of the United States Constitution enshrines the fundamental right to free speech, assembly, and petition. These rights are the bedrock of our democratic society, fostering an environment where diverse voices can be heard and considered. It is imperative that we safeguard these constitutional rights, not only for the well-being of individuals like myself, but also for the health of our democratic institutions. Today, I stand before you to request the TriMet board take immediate action to investigate these instances of retaliation and ensure that such behavior is not tolerated within the organization. I implore you to reaffirm TriMet's commitment to the principles of free speech and actively foster the environment where employees, passengers, and community members feel safe to express their opinions without fear of retribution. In conclusion, the ability to freely express oneself without fear of retaliation is a cornerstone of a just and democratic society. As a responsible and accountable transportation agency, TriMet has the duty to uphold these principles. I sincerely hope that my testimony today has shed a light on concerning issues and retaliation faced by individuals engaged in First Amendment activities. I trust that the TriMet board will take appropriate measures to address these concerns and reinforce the importance of protecting constitutional rights. Thank you for your time. I began filming by filming transit police harassing and threatening young youth for violating curfew in the back of a parking lot. I stood up to them, and ever since that day, my life has basically been one where I have to protect myself by filming every encounter that I have with law enforcement. It started with transit police, 16 different agencies operating as transit police, no accountability. It's insane. Officers my size wearing flight jackets, checking tickets, $2.50. It's optics. It's something to watch, and I've been targeted for presenting that perspective. It started with TriMet. You guys might know me through my interactions as a quote unquote cop watcher, photographer, politico. But at the end of the day, I've always just been somebody who's been interested in incremental change, being involved, and I decided that I would go ahead and film the police and exercise that right, and that was my campaign. And again, just the other day, I got harassed for having a bike on the train. I've got videos, and I wouldn't mind sharing them with you before they were to be published, just so that we can have an open dialogue about the incidents that we see.
Thank you, Eli. I appreciate your testimony. Thank you for your comments. We have received the written testimony as well, which I've noticed does include some contact information. So I encourage the agency to respond back and try to understand a little bit better what exactly is happening within the TriMet system. I understand that these sort of incidents expand beyond TriMet itself, but I really appreciate you bringing these happening on the system to our attention.
Thank you very much. Yeah, physical assaults, false arrests, I've been through it all for simply holding a camera up in modern age. I know a lot of maybe people aren't familiar with or used to being that level of accountability and civil engagement, but it is 2023, so it's kind of the norm today. It should be expected and responded to in an appropriate and professional way. So thank you.
Thank you very much for your testimony, Eli. Are there any other individuals who have signed up to testify this morning here in the room? I don't see any more. Okay, and now let's go now to those who have signed up to provide a virtual testimony. I'd like to begin with Thomas Gibson. Okay, Thomas, if you are out there and you hear me, we'll get back to you after we have a testimony from another individual who signed up, Joe Kunzler.
Good morning. Can you hear me, Chair Ozzie?
Good morning, Joe. Yes.
Okay, thank you. Joe Kunzler here, concerned citizen and occasional TriMet writer. I was recently down in your Portland area for the Oregon International Air Show, and I wanted to do the responsible thing and pay for my TriMet fare. And so I put your app on my $100 Motor G Power phone, which I'm holding in my right hand, and when I went out on the system, the app wouldn't let me, tap because the $99.99 phone I'm holding here does not have the hardware to, tap on and tap off your green poles. And I really think that that's a serious issue. That I think that if you're going to do this fare collection thing, you might want to change fare providers. Now, I get nothing out of this financially or otherwise. I'm just sharing with you because I'm a supporter of transit, and I wanted to call on last month, but work obligations got in the way. There is this fare provider. It's called, I don't know if you can see it. It's called UMO. And that's what Skagit Transit uses. And you put the app on your phone, you prepay, you get a QR code that you can see here, and that QR code is optically scanned. So you don't need to try to find a phone that can tap or not tap. You just have this QR code scanned. And there's also fare capping with UMO. And the company is very committed to equity and social justice. They recently left Twitter as a result of that. So I just wanted to reach out to you as a supporter of transit and ask that if you're going to continue to collect this regressive fare, that you go to a UMO app or something that doesn't require green poles that don't work, or an app that doesn't work. Because what I decided to do, to be honorable, was buy 2 one-day paper passes, and that worked. But again, I just wanted to bring this to your attention and thank you for all you do. And I also want to thank the board member who voted no on the fare increase. And I'd like to leave it at that. Thank you for your public service.
Thank you very much for your testimony, Joe. Do we have Thomas Gibson available to testify? I'm seeing no connection coming from Thomas Gibson. Are there any other individuals that have signed up to testify virtually? I see no other individuals have signed up to testify virtually. I appreciate any feedback we get on how to use the system responsibly, and any instance where it might be difficult to do so. So thank you so much to all that have brought their testimonies today. And with that, I believe that closes the public forum. Let's see here. First timer, in case it's not obvious yet. Public signed to testify at this time. I'll close. Okay, so with no other members of the public signed up to testify at this time, I will close the public forum and open up the TriMet business meeting. Feels like there should be a gavel at this point. Finally, let's see here. We will not be advancing today's only ordinance, so that's an update to the agenda. I believe some of our board members caught that. And so for those of you that had planned to wait around for the public hearing of that ordinance, you no longer have to for today's meeting. And staff hopes to bring that ordinance before the board next month. So with that, I'd like to move us over to board reports. So let's begin with board reports. First with Director Edwards to provide an update on the latest meeting on the Committee on Accessible Transit, otherwise known as our CAT Committee. Director Edwards.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I don't have a report this month because we didn't have a CAT meeting last week, but I will defer to the general manager who attended the CAT luncheon.
I'll have some comments in my opening statement for the general manager's report, but I do want to say that we had a wonderful time at the CAT luncheon. It was well attended, and there were great comments, and also there was a award presentation that was made there as well. So I'll cover that shortly.
Okay, are there any questions at this time? It sounds like we're going to hear a little more. Seeing no questions from the board, I'll move us over to Director Kim, who has updates from both the Metro Policy Advisory Committee, MPAC, and the Accountability Committee.
Of course.
Director Kim?
Yep. At the May MPAC meeting, Metro provided an update on the Oregon Housing Needs Analysis and how recent changes to state law with the passage of HB 2001 will change how the state, Metro, and local jurisdictions undertake planning for housing. So these changes are intended to further housing production throughout the region and increase housing choice at all levels of affordability. So Metro also updated the group on the highway high-capacity transit strategy. This work has established a long-term version of high-capacity transit in the region and a pipeline for future potential projects. The focus now is on the revision of the draft report before it is incorporated into the 2023 RTP document, which will be available for public review in July. MPAC meets again tonight, and we'll discuss Metro's community placemaking grants, Metro's transit-oriented development program, and the potential of middle housing as a part of urban growth management. That concludes my report for MPAC. Now, as for my other report, let me pull it up. The accountability committee meeting, we had our first meeting of 2023 on June 6th. All members were in attendance. Committee member Dave Whipple provided the committee with a comparison of year-over-year page views on Accountability and Transparency Center. And as with our last meeting, the committee was particularly interested to see whether the new look and feel of TriMet.org that we launched in early 2022 might have an impact on visits to the center. And I'm pleased to report that any impact continues to be positive. A look at overall page views for the month of May 2023 compared to last year showed there were 3.6% increase year over year in page views. And to the extent that any of the board members are interested, we can do a quick show when time permits. Otherwise, you're all free to visit at your convenience. The top 5 areas that were visited on the page were the Accountability and Transparency Center, ridership and performance statistics, Board of Directors meeting schedule and agenda, FY 2022 finance report, the FY 2024 approved budget, and TriMet's performance dashboard. And we also reviewed a new feature about State Transportation Improvement Fund, HB 2017, spending that I thought would be worthwhile to share, and we'll share that in a minute. And as you may see on the screen, the information is in a very easy to digestible format and depicts where the STIF monies go. And during the meeting, we also reviewed the Accountability and Transparency website to ensure that all of the materials were updated and any outdated materials were removed. And next meeting is in December. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that report. Are there any questions from the board members from Director Kim's MPAC or Accountability Committee reports? I do have a question, and for the new board members in the group, that's what these little guys are here. They'll help raise a hand at any time, and I'll do my best in monitoring what order they are raised in. So I have a question, Director Kim. Being that the Accountability Committee has just been formed, they had their first meeting. Can you just let us know how big is the committee? It's beyond just TriMet representation?
So it's not quite new, right? So it's been around. Although it was the first meeting of 2023,
Thank you.
first meeting of the year, and we. I mean, I think it's good to note that we had a newest member, Mimi, and to be sure, these members are all TriMet folks, and Mimi has been with TriMet, to highlight her, the new member, about 3 years now, and will be a great addition to the committee with her experience in making information accessible to individuals who are neurodiverse, and so Shelly's on there, Dave is there, and Dave's the one who's showing around all of the website, showing all the technical summaries. So it's a very productive board, productive committee, although we're only meeting twice a year. But to the extent that there's additional needs, we're happy to sync separately as well. So
Thank you.
yeah.
Thank you. That's some good context. If there are no further questions, I'd like to move us now to Director Y, who will provide an update on the Transit Equity Advisory Committee, otherwise known as TEAC. Director Y?
Thank you. Hello and good morning, everybody and board. So TEAC had a fairly busy month in June. So I will first start off with the agenda for the June 13th board meeting. We received system updates by staff around an RFP process, the FAIR proposal decision, and then the Better Red program. And then that was also followed by a similar report that Director Kim just provided on Metro's high capacity transit project strategy update, followed by TOD, which is the transit oriented development. That is our plan around, how do we make sure that we're also playing our part in sort of the housing ecosystem that's in our region, while also linking that housing to transit pathways. So that was very exciting. Thank you so much for that update. And then we also received a report out on the very first meeting that was held on the FAIR subsidy workgroup meeting. So I just wanted to expand a little bit on that particular point because I was not able to attend the meeting, but Amparo Angosto, who's really been leading those efforts with John Gardner and his team, have just, I feel like, really done a phenomenal job of really just leading a brand new work group on a topic that I know many of us are very interested in. So during that first particular work group meeting, they discussed new models and funding sources for subsidizing transit with a particular focus on fairless transit systems. Some of the main points of discussion revolved around two key questions. They are, what do you want to learn about subsidized fare programs across the country? And second, what questions do you have about potential funding sources that could be used to support riders or new rider programs? There were several participants who raised important questions and points, including access to transit programs, what are the effectiveness of current programs, coverage for different diverse populations, sustainability of funding sources, what are benefits and drawbacks of fareless systems, and impact on ridership and community. And the first work group meeting, they also touched on other topics like what is the time cost to passengers, scheduling, equity considerations, environmental measures, and grant funding opportunities. So as you can see, it sounded like it was a very, very full agenda. And again, I've been fairly hands-off with this group and really just relying on the facilitation and expertise of our staff, as well as our community volunteers who've signed up to be a part of this. So my next check-in with the TriMet team will be this Friday morning, and just to kind of ask, some basic questions around what is the timeline for the work group, as well as will some of the information be publicly available, i.e., can people go on our TriMet website and get more information about the work group and the outcomes and who is participating. So that is all I have. And next month, TEAC is not meeting. They're taking a little break, which is great for everyone, and they hope to resume in August.
Thank you for that report, Director Y. Are there any questions from board members? I see Director Frisbee has a question.
Thank you so much for your service on the TEAC committee.
Could you turn the microphone on? Our online folks will hear it that way.
Sorry, guys, we're working through all this. I just want to say thank you for your work on the TIAC committee, and would love for the board to be kept abreast as the work on the Fairless piece moves forward. And I would be particularly interested in case studies of places where they have tested Fairless systems and the impacts, particularly to BIPOC communities in the year or 2 years or 3 years after. I think some of those long-term case studies might be particularly instructive and helpful for us.
Absolutely, will do. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Director Frisbee. It's indeed, it's been part of the process of the agency to look into those things, and I would highly encourage our staff to reach out to Director Frisbee and bring her abreast of what we have explored and are continuing to learn from our agency partners around the country. This is certainly an important topic. And Director Y, thank you for that report. I'm certainly excited for the work that's coming from the subsidy work group meetings, and I'm glad to know that you are involved and interested in that very important work. So thank you. Look forward to the next update. Any other questions for Director Y? Very good. So now I'd like to turn to, let's see here. Lastly, here we go. I'd like to turn now to Director Lewis on the Crash Advisory Committee's latest meeting. Director Lewis?
Thank you, Director Gonzalez. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
For the benefit of our new members, I'll just give a little quick narrative on what the Crash Advisory Committee is and its function. The TriMet Crash Advisory Committee was established under Senate Bill 1053 in 2020 to provide external review of crashes involving TriMet vehicles. The committee meets 2 to 3 times a year and consists of 7 members, including one which is a board member. During the meetings, the members review certain crashes involving TriMet buses and trains in an effort to improve public safety, build understanding and an awareness of the reasons for the crashes, and to assist in avoiding future crashes. Members of the committee met June 6 via WebEx, and there were 14 crashes between November 2021 to May of 2022. Of those 14 crashes, the committee members selected 5 for review at that meeting. Those 5 crashes consisted of 5 pedestrian crashes, 0 vehicle crashes, and 1 fatality. To date, the committee has been provided 81 crashes for review, of which 31 crashes were reviewed and discussed over our 3-year period. Those 31 crashes consisted of 8 buses and 23 rail crashes, which consisted of 21 pedestrian crashes, 9 vehicle crashes, 1 bicycle crash, and 8 resulting in fatalities. A discussion and review of a crash can consist of reviewing the asset report, the operator's report, supervisor reports, police reports, the event recording data, numerous, and I'll say numerous, videos from the buses. We have an overwhelming amount of excellent camera footage, light rail from the buses, light rail, and the platform, including photos, and unfortunately, the ME's report. Occasionally, members of the committee will physically visit the crash sites to add to their feedback and recommendations during the meetings. Also, during our June meeting, the members reviewed a draft of recommendations that summarize the committee member input, and that will be submitted to the board and general manager at a forthcoming date. Our committee members are Barry Lundberg, member of the Committee on CAT, Committee of Accessible Transportation. Chris Strong, Transportation Division Manager for the City of Gresham and a credentialed engineer. Haug Haydorn, Associate Director at PSU Transportation Research and Educational Center. Jeff Podolsky, Executive Director of West Side Transportation Alliance, Peter Coots of PDOT, Director for Lights and Signals, Scott Kocher, Director, Chair, and Attorney, and Board Member of Oregon Walks, Families for Safe Streets, including myself. Thank you also to Libby Winter for our admin support and supplying us with all of the videos and information for our crashes. Our next meeting is November 8th. We did have a presentation from Metro at our meeting on Metro Vision Zero. That's an approach to ending traffic fatalities. I think that is it. Oh, we did have also a conversation on TriMet, exploring the partnerships with Operation Life Safety, which includes outreach and communication education on the opportunities that are available for street safety. That concludes my report.
Thank you, Director Lewis. Are there any questions from the board? Seeing none, I really appreciate the summary of the work of the Crash Committee. It's good for us as board members and the public to be reminded of that work. It's an important part of what we do to not only help improve safety and learn from our mistakes, frankly, but to collaborate with other agencies. So thank you for that. Now, I'd like to turn to our General Manager for his monthly report. General Manager Dessou.
Morning, Presiding Officer Gonzalez, members of the board, the public, TriMet staff. Good morning to all of you, and thank you all for being here today. First, I would like to say again to welcome our new board members, and Director Frisbee, thank you, and welcome, and also Director Kellogg, who's in the audience. Welcome, sir, and really appreciate you joining us as well. Director Kellogg will join us for our July board meeting. I want to start off that I speak for the entire team at TriMet and sharing our appreciation for your willingness as a board to volunteer your time, really helping us to be a value to this region here. So welcome, and also thank you, board members, as well. This morning I'll share very timely information with you. One, I'm going to share a special presentation on the 2023 current state of TriMet. I will update you on our May ridership numbers. I will tell you about an award for TriMet safety and security efforts, which will get you excited. And also I'll introduce you to our 2023 Operators of the Year. So let's start this morning. We are just days away from the start of our new fiscal year. Fiscal year 2024, and it's really time for TriMet to look forward, and it's time for us to reflect as well. So this morning I'll begin with my report with a special presentation on the current state and how we've reached this point that we are at today, where we're heading and how we plan on getting there. So let's go to the video that we've prepared on the current state. We at TriMet are optimistic and hopeful for the future. As life fully resurfaces after the pandemic, more riders are returning to TriMet. As our ridership continues to trend up, we're implementing the first major redesign of our bus service and agency history, while taking intentional actions to help our environment and this place we call home. TriMet, more than ever, is not just serving our community, we are part of the life of our community. We're lending our hand to state and local leaders who are addressing the challenges in our society. We're helping clean up our cities, connecting people in need with services, improving a high crash corridor, assisting people in reaching life goals, creating affordable housing opportunities, celebrating our region's diversity, and providing transit service that is safe, reliable, and necessary. TriMet has traveled a long way in the past year. Our Division Transit project achieved records in work by disadvantaged businesses while breathing new life into Division Street. It made the way for the launch of our new TriMet FX Frequent Express bus service with transit priority signals and lanes that has led to an increase in riders along the thoroughfare. More people are finding a new path in life at the wheel of our buses as we work our way out of an historic operator shortage. We've more than doubled the number of non-police security staff on our system, and we're dedicating more people and time to cleaning our vehicles and platforms as we improve the customer experience. We've engaged people from diverse backgrounds to celebrate the customs and cultures that make our corner of the world so vibrant. We're on solid financial footing with the approval of the first increase to TriMet's base fare in more than a decade. But we're keeping monthly hop fare caps and pass costs the same to benefit those who most frequently rely on TriMet. That comes on the heels of an important milestone achieved in March 2023 as we reached more than 50,000 people signed up for our reduced fare program based on their income level. The actions of the past year have set us up for the year and years ahead as we move to get more people out of their cars and onto our buses and trains. We are on track to deliver a better red in the coming year with an improved MAX red line between Portland International Airport and Gateway that will keep trains moving better system-wide. As we extend the red line to Hillsborough for more MAX service in Washington County and more people enjoying a one-seat ride to and from PDX. We're adding back more service as we move closer to pre-pandemic service levels, and our Forward Together plan, developed with the community, will give more people more access to transit. In the coming years, it will bring bus service closer to 50,000 more people and weekend service closer to 100,000 more. 50% more people and jobs will be located near frequent service, with buses coming every 15 minutes or more often, and people will be able to reach 45% more jobs by bus, with new routes planned in each of the 3 counties TriMet serves. New MAX trains will start moving our riders in the coming months as we begin saying goodbye to our oldest trains, both new and old, powered by renewable energy. While our diesel buses are running on renewable diesel for dramatically cleaner emissions today, we'll be bringing in more electric buses in the year ahead as we advance toward a goal of a zero emissions bus fleet by 2040. We're continuing to move forward on ways to improve safety on our system as we look to prevent misuse and provide more amenities to make riding easier and better. That includes adding more staff to clean vehicles during the day and putting in more shelters and real-time arrival displays to track your bus or train. In the coming year, we'll begin adding floors to the Southeast Park Avenue Park and Ride. It's work that had been deferred during the MAX Orange Line project, but a move that sets up for the future as we work to increase ridership to 120 million trips a year by 2030. It's a lofty goal, but one that is possible due to the skilled and determined people of TriMet who show up every day to move our customers, getting them where they need and want to go. And it's possible thanks to the passionate people who advocate for transit in our region and the dedicated customers who understand the value of a shared ride to the environment and to their lives. TriMet, we are how life moves, today and into the future. I just want to say that that's my why I work here at TriMet, is what you've seen here and our future. So in the coming years, I'll be sharing with you more about that roadmap as we plan for the future, not only for TriMet, but for this amazing community that we love and we call home. So we're calling it Vision 2030. We will be meeting with you to sit down and really talk with you about that It's going to take a lot of work, a lot of determination, and a lot of heart. But as I said at the start of the video here, is that we are optimistic and hopeful for our future. So I would like to transition now and move over to our ridership for the month of May. So we've provided just over 5,281,000 rides in May, reflecting a nearly 16% increase in riders over May of 2022. And we are looking forward to increase in service and giving more people a reason to ride later this summer and this year as we roll out our Forward Together plan. And we are starting that this summer here to roll it out. Also wanted to talk to you about that special national award that we were recognized for in Pittsburgh by the American Public Transportation Association, and it's known as APTA, another acronym. They honored TriMet with 2 gold awards. The first award was recognized on efforts. We as an agency and our security division, we've made steps to develop and adopt proactive safety and security programs and projects. And TriMet is one of 9 agencies in the United States to be honored this gold award in 2023. Each nomination was evaluated and based on effectiveness, benefit, innovation, and transferability to other transit agencies. So let's talk about the transferability is a big one, as TriMet's award-winning innovations and efforts were acknowledged as industry-leading tools that our peers may look to emulate in the future. We were honored with the APTA's Rail Security Gold Award for our Reimagined Safety Program, security program. This program has roots in our agency with Reimagining Public Safety and Security, our transit initiative that was first launched in 2020. So our Reimagining Security program allows for a community engagement first approach with a diversified and expanded security team. And among them are our customer safety supervisors, our contract security officers, and our safety response teams. Our safety response teams is definitely that drawing of attention nationwide right now. And other transit agencies are really calling us up and really talking with us about our safety response team, because the members on that team have lived experiences that connect people on or near our transit systems with social services. And since the start of 2022, we have more than doubled our non-police security presence. And that's among with our strong partnership with the Multnomah County Sheriff's Department as our law enforcement lead for transit police. The Sheriff Office has developed also a new violence reduction strategy that's taking criminals off the street and off our transit systems. So that Reimagined Security program over the last year has led to a couple of things. One, a 14% drop in police service calls. Again, a 14% drop in calls for police service in 2022. And also, this is critical here, a 40% decline in incidents that's targeting our frontline employees. And if, you know, as a general manager, that's that phone call I don't want to hear is one of our people being assaulted or attacked. So we've seen a 40% decline in incidents targeting our frontline personnel. The second gold award that we received came from our rail safety project, which is currently underway, and one that the Federal Transit Administration has identified as a safety research demonstration for the entire transit industry. The project is using cameras and video analytic data at rail grade crossings to catalog human behavior and movement then comparing it with our infrastructure, our operating environment, and reported incident data at that location. So think about this. With that information there, our security and safety teams is creating a risk ranking tool to prioritize investments in rail grade crossing safety improvements. So the awards were presented at the rail conference in Pittsburgh, and I was really happy to be there and stand there with our Chief Operating Officer, Bonnie Todd, and also our Chief Safety Officer, Andrew Wilson, just as well as an array of our safety and security staff to accept them. Also wanted to say that our presiding officer, Ozzie Gonzalez, was there at the conference also to witness this on the national stage. This is an honor that is shared with an outstanding team that extends far beyond the people that I just called out, far beyond the leaders who were able to be there in person. Some may be here today, but I want to just look out and thank the TriMet team entirely for bringing these award-winning efforts together. And without your relentless focus and on safety and well-being of others. So thank you all on the team, and thank you, board, for your cooperation as well here. Finally this morning, which you've seen our two operators just kind of move up to the podium here, I'm going to introduce to you our 2023 Operators of the Year. We have two of the recipients here with us this morning. And board, I would love to just ask you to join me in congratulating Kit Freeman. Also, Kit is our Bus Operator of the Year. And Kit has been a bus driver for 4 years with TriMet. She is a customer favorite, and her on-time performance out there is 94%. So think about driving a bus around town and having a 94% on-time performance. Also with us is Victoria Jeffrey, who is a mini-run Bus Operator of the Year. Victoria joined TriMet as a part-time bus operator nearly 15 years ago. She also is another customer favorite. She's had multiple months of perfect attendance, and the customers love her out there when she operates her vehicle. And then finally, who's not here with us, is our Rail Operator of the Year, John Kim. He isn't here, but he did join us at our Star-Studded Operator Choice Award ceremony last month. And want to let you know, too, board, that our TriMet Operators of the Year, they're selected by our peers, their peers. And the three of them, or the two that's here and John, they are among our best operators that operates out there. So let's give them a big round of applause here. So board, before I turn it over to you, Presiding Officer Gonzalez, and the board to make some comments here, I want to let you know that the bar is extremely high for these two operators. Very high standards in excellence, safety, performance, attendance, customer satisfaction. And I want you to think about being out there and constantly having people, helping people, reaching out. Our operators will do anything for the community. And community is that fabric that ties us together with what they do out there so proudly. So really appreciate that. We're grateful for your hard work that you've given us and a dedication to our riders and our community. So Kit and Victoria, thank you very much on that. So
Thank you very much for that report, General Manager Dessou. And before I pass it along to questions, I'm just going to kick it off and extend the congratulations. You are ambassadors for the agency. You are the front line. You are the face of TriMet so many times for so many people. And thank you so much. To be able to peel away and be recognized today is an opportunity for us to extend our gratitude for everything you do to represent us. So thank you very much, and congratulations on this recognition. Let's see here. Now, I'd like to now open it up for questions or comments. Director Edwards.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I really want to applaud you as well. Going to work every day is sometimes enough, But having to deal with the public every day and the way that you've done it certainly speaks to who you are and who we want to be recognized as TriMet. So thank you very much for what you do, how you do it, and the fact that you keep on doing it and making us look good, because you are the face of TriMet every day. So again, thank you very much.
To Kit and Victoria, thank you. And John, too. I'm sure he will hear and see this later. But I know you've raised your families, and as Director Keith said, you got up each morning, put the coffee on if you drink coffee, and you stood and faced many obstacles in the turns, and especially in the weather, as it was noted earlier, 116 degrees this time last year, but you were in those buses, you were driving, and you were representing the agency. Hugs, hugs, and more hugs. Shout out for being women, yes. Thank you again.
Wonderful. Director Frisbee.
Kit and Victoria, I just want to echo the words of my colleagues. Thank you so much for your work. It is deeply appreciated as someone who rides the bus very frequently. The kind engagement of a bus operator and a driver can really make the whole experience feel really different. So I hope you know how appreciated it is for those of us out there. Kit, I have to ask, do you drive the FX2? Oh, you do not? Okay. I had a very kind experience with a bus driver recently who shares your beautiful blonde hair. So I was like, maybe. But so thank you both so much. If we have further questions about the General Manager's report, Presiding Officer Gonzalez, may we ask them now?
Yes.
Thank you. General Manager DeSue, thank you so much for the update. I'm particularly interested in the Forward Together projects that are moving forward in the upcoming months, and I'm wondering if there's a way for the board to get sort of consistent updates on the specific projects moving forward, and as metrics are coming forward about ridership increases on those lines or delay improvements, I would love some way to be able to track, to track that work and stay up to date on it. I so appreciate the work of the staff who put that together. I know it's been a long process, and one of the things that I think is particularly exciting is that it is phased, and we know when pieces are coming and what we expect to see from them, and it would be really helpful to track that.
Thanks, Director Frisbee. Let me first, I want to just thank our operators. That way I know you have other things or either joining us for the meeting. So thank you for being here, and a big congratulations again. So going to your point, I will make it a point at our next board meeting that we have our planning staff come and give a full presentation of all of the projects that's moving forward this summer. And as you continue to onboard, I will actually bring you and Director Kellogg in so that we can continue to meet the team and bring you up to speed on everything that's taken place. So that will take place as we move forward immediately. And then the last thing I want to say, Presiding Officer Gonzalez, kind of 2 points. One is I want to just say that I did meet with the CAT committee, and we had our annual luncheon on accessible transportation. The committee was in attendance along with our TriMet executives. The main part of the luncheon was geared toward celebrating all of the accomplishments for the year, and there were quite a large list that took place there. Also, I honored one of the members for leaving the committee, and I'm just really grateful for the work that occurred. But I had a couple of points I wanted to say, and thank you, Director Edwards, for yielding to me. I told them that they bring value to this region, and before the American with Disabilities Act, that people with disabilities face mountains of challenges, including accessible public transportation. And I told them, while there were so many challenges in our society, and there's always going to be work that we're going to be doing, that the CAT has been instrumental since it was started in 1985, breaking through the barriers in our little corner of the world here. So I really appreciated their work of bringing value and enhancing the lives of all of our riders and older adults and people that were living with disabilities. But I'll share with this as I close, is that there were things that they were part of, signage and riding tools, and just recently wayfinding for riders who have visual impairments that was there. And also working with people who are not native English speakers. So really commended them for the work, Jan Campbell and the committee. So I just want to say with that ends my report.
Thank you very much, General Manager Dessou. And if there are no, I see there is another hand raised. Director Edwards?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. And I guess I'll elaborate a little bit on the CAT committee as well, because since I've been working with the CAT committee, they, especially for the new board members, they're tenacious, which is a huge plus. They don't take no for an answer, but they help us think of things in ways that we would never think of making the improvements to TriMet without them. And that is it's a very critical piece to the success of TriMet. I want to thank General Manager Dessou as well for your report. I think when the awards are received, it's not just for staff, it's not just for the board, it's for the whole TriMet family, which is management as well as labor and the board. And I think we need to all be appreciative of that, because we work together collaboratively as a team, and that's what makes this TriMet the success it is. So thank you.
Thank you for your words, Director Edwards. I see no other hands raised, so before we move into the next item on the agenda, I just want to echo some sentiments and the important work that the CAT committee does. Thank you to all of those involved. Clearly, you are helping us step beyond the compliance mentality of the Americans with Disabilities Act to really understand the broader array of issues that can present obstacles for individuals of all types as they're navigating the system. So thank you for that work. Keep it up. Keep challenging us to make the system that much safer and more accessible. And thank you to all the staff involved in that process, because it really is a village approach that gets us to the point in which other agencies are recognizing our work. So thank you. And then also, I want to underscore the vision that has been presented. You know, just doing a little bit of back of napkin math here, I realize to get to that 120 million by 2030, we're talking about more than doubling where we currently are right now. I know we're still in a % of pre-pandemic, but to achieve that goal, we have to exceed pre-pandemic levels. And you know, again, the village approach, it takes us all. So if you don't already have your HOP cards, it's a great time to sign up. If you aren't familiar with the Low Income Fare Program, please connect with TriMet or one of your community organizations. The word is getting out. It's great to see that getting picked up. And for the youths out there, we have a fantastic youth program. So if you're not familiar with it, please tap into the system and start tapping those cards. All right, so thank you once again, General Manager Dessou. Now, before we move to our standard business this morning, I have a little bit of a surprise. I would actually like to follow the vein of recognitions and recognize our two outgoing board members with some honorary resolutions. So I have one here for Dr. Linda Simmons and another for Director Lori Irish Bauman. Now, I don't see them in the room today, so I'm hopeful you'll be catching this online, and you will certainly be getting a copy of your resolution in person. So if you could just entertain me for a second. I'm going to take a sip because there's a lot of words on this piece of paper. I'd like to begin, I'd like to begin with the resolution honoring Director Lori Irish Bauman. Pardon me. Resolution honoring Lori Irish Bauman. Resolution of the Tri-County Metropolitan Transportation District of Oregon, aka TriMet, honoring Lori Irish Bauman for her service as a member of the TriMet Board of Directors. Whereas the Tri-County Metropolitan Transportation District of Oregon and its board members wish to honor Lori Irish Bauman for her service on the board. And whereas Lori Irish Bauman has been a member of the board since June 1st, 2015, previously serving as the secretary and treasurer, and serving as vice president since July 1st, 2021, representing the entire transit district and her own TriMet District 4 in Southeast Portland. And whereas, as chair of the board's Finance and Audit Committee, Lori Irish Bauman employed her extensive legal experience, financial management skills, and vision for equity and social justice to help guide TriMet's many financial decisions and assist the agency in maintaining its AAA bond rating from all three credit agencies. And whereas Lori Irish Bauman demonstrated wise leadership in the 2016 genesis and ongoing development and refinement of TriMet's annual business plan, resulting in improved financial planning, program evaluation, and consistency in agency decision-making. And whereas Lori Irish Bauman effectively promoted TriMet's services to senior citizens and riders with disabilities, serving on TriMet's Committee on Accessible Transportation, CAT, and consistently advocating for diversity and equity in all matters considered by the board. And whereas Lori Irish Bauman contributed careful reasoning and analysis to TriMet's innovative Forward Together program, helping to equitably restructure transit service district-wide and provide more timely, regular, and rapid service to transit-dependent communities. And whereas Lori Irish Bauman applied her analytical and strategic skills to help the board evaluate TriMet's current and future financial needs and adopt a more reasonable and equitable transit fare model, setting the agency on a sustainable future financial path. And whereas Lori Irish Bauman served with knowledge, professionalism, dedication, kindness, good humor, and careful consideration of all points of view, consistently providing the board and the agency with a voice for reason and common sense. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the TriMet Board of Directors and TriMet staff hereby express their gratitude to Lori Irish Bauman for her generous service. Be it further resolved that a framed copy of this resolution shall be presented to Lori Irish Bauman as an expression of our heartfelt respect and appreciation. Thank you, Lori Irish Bauman. It's proper, yes. And I have another resolution. Sit tight. Here, let me regale you with some of the accomplishments from our previous board president, Dr. Linda Simmons. Resolution honoring Dr. Linda Simmons. Resolution of the Tri-County Metropolitan Transportation District of Oregon honoring Dr. Linda Simmons for her service as a member of the TriMet Board of Directors. Whereas the Tri-County Metropolitan Transportation District of Oregon, aka TriMet, and its Board of Directors wish to honor Dr. Linda Simmons for her dedicated and outstanding service as a board member since 2016 and for her service as board president since July 1st, 2021. And whereas, as a longtime member of its Finance and Audit Committee, Linda Simmons applied her extensive administrative and executive skills and experience to help develop the agency's approximately $1.9 billion annual budgets, guide its many financial decisions, and oversee its significant financial investments, assisting TriMet to retain a solid foundation and maintain its AAA bond rating. And whereas Linda Simmons exercised thoughtful and wise leadership in the establishment of TriMet's annual business plan and its ongoing development, helping all sectors of the agency improve financial planning, evaluate and update program goals, and enhance prudent business decision-making. And whereas Linda Simmons has been a steadfast leader in the development and authorization of many initiatives that have improved transit throughout the district, including the Better Red Max improvements, the Division Street FX bus project, the Hollywood Transit Center improvements, and associated transit-oriented development, implementation of the Reimagining Public Safety Program, responses to the significant changes of the COVID-19 pandemic, and development of the innovative Forward Together program that restructures routes and schedules to enhance transit service throughout the district and provide more timely, regular, and rapid service to transit-dependent communities. And whereas Linda Simmons was a powerful motivating force in investigating the need and capacity for a transit fare increase, promoting the public outreach and education around the proposed changes, and assisting the board and the public to evaluate the essential role transit fares play in the agency's current future financial well-being, ultimately leading to a board's adoption of a more reasonable and equitable transit fare model and establishing a sustainable future for a financial path for the agency. And whereas Linda Simmons served with knowledge, professionalism, dedication, fairness, and careful consideration of all points of view, consistently providing steady and solid leadership in the face of historic challenges for TriMet and the metro area. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the TriMet board and TriMet staff hereby express their gratitude to Linda Simmons for her extensive and generous service. And be it further resolved that a framed copy of this resolution shall be presented to Linda Simmons as an expression of our warm respect and appreciation. Thank you, Dr. Linda Simmons, as well. Whew. Is there a motion to approve these two resolutions?
So moved. Kim.
Thank you, Director Kim. Is there a second?
Second.
They beat you to the punch, Director Edwards. Thank you twice. Thank you very much, Dr. Lewis. We have a move and a second. Does anyone wish to make a comment before we hold a blanket vote to approve both items? Director Edwards?
I would like to make a comment, and I make this comment because recently that we made some tough decisions with the board in regards to our fare increase. And I know that these two board members that have left were really challenged with the decisions that had to be made, as well as we all were. But I really appreciate the fact that they stood up and stood by what they thought was right for TriMet and the community. And I just wanted to recognize that and know that they're appreciated for that.
Thank you, Director Edwards. Any other questions or comments? Okay. We will move now to a vote. All in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed? Very good. Motion carries. Oh, I didn't say aye. Aye. Motion carries. Thank you. Now, I'd like to turn us to the consent agenda. Items that appear on the consent agenda are considered routine and may be approved in one blanket motion by the board. Now, what is a routine item, you might ask? A good example is a modification to a contract that the board has already approved at a prior meeting, as well as our minutes of previous agenda items. And this morning's consent agenda includes a number of items. Of course, approving the minutes of our last meeting, May 24th, 2023, and a resolution directing that all reading of ordinances be by title only. And that's followed with a few resolutions that are in the consent agenda as well. We have Resolution 23-06-21, authorizing a contract modification with HMI Oregon Dealership, Incorporated, DBI Pacific WRO. We have Resolution 23-06-22, authorizing a contract modification with Technology Integration Group for procurement implementation, installation, and warranty services for a mobile access router, or MAR, MAR scripting environment, and MAR central management interface. And we have Resolution 23-06-23, authorizing a modification of TriMet's public art policy. Let me first ask, would any director request to have any items removed from the consent agenda? Do we have a motion to approve the items as contained in the consent agenda?
So move.
Thank you, Director Edwards. Do we have a second?
Second, Kim.
Thank you, Director Kim. Does anyone wish to make a comment before we vote? Director Frisbee.
Thank you, Presiding Officer Gonzalez. I just want to express my appreciation to the TriMet staff who answered my questions about the public art policy. And I really appreciated your feedback about using the public art as a welcoming tool, particularly for BIPOC community members or folks who may not historically feel as comfortable or welcome in public spaces, and your commitment to working with other agencies across the district. So thank you.
All right, seeing no one else, I'll simply echo, as an artist and an art lover, I'm really glad to see the agency continuing the program. And if precedent is any example, it's wonderful to see us working with local artists and local themes and really enhancing the experience of our writers as they go through the system. Okay. So where am I now? I think we're done with the discussion element. Are there no further discussion questions? All right, all those in favor of approving the consent agenda, say aye.
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 All opposed? All right, motion carries. The consent agenda is approved. Now we will move to our resolutions. We have quite a bit in store, and for those new board members and for our more board members to come, here's a little taste of the type of business we get to do as board members. I will begin with our first resolution, that is Resolution 23-06-24, amending the funding policy for the TriMet Defined Benefit Plan for management and staff employees. Now, let's see. The first resolution to come before the board is amending that funding policy. Mr. General Manager, your comments, please.
Thanks, Presiding Officer Gonzalez and members of the board. The resolution before you now contains proposed amendments to TriMet's defined benefit plan. If approved with these revisions, the plan will give TriMet staff and the trustees more flexibility and ability to respond quickly to changes in the investment markets and interest rates. Most importantly, the revisions will allow the plan's trustees to adjust federal levels or funding levels to avoid overfunding in the plan. The 5 most substantial revisions are listed within the text of the resolution. These only affect the plan for management and staff employees. The plan for the bargaining unit union employees is unchanged at this time. This proposal has no immediate impact on TriMet's operating budget, and I recommend your approval.
Thank you, General Manager Dessou. Is there a motion to approve the resolution?
So moved.
I heard Director Edwards on that one. A second?
Second.
Thank you, Director Lewis. Does anyone wish to make a comment or post a question before we move to a vote? I see none. Again, thank you for your diligence in updating this program. I'd like to now ask for a vote. All those in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed? Seeing none, motion carries. Now, we'd like to move to the next regular resolution, number 23-06-25, regarding a modification to an intergovernmental agreement, or IGA. This resolution was pulled from the June agenda and is appearing here on the July agenda instead. General Manager Dessou.
Presiding Officer Gonzalez, members of the board. So when TriMet acquires property by purchase or through eminent domain, Oregon law requires the board to am I reading?
I think you were skipping 25, and now you were going to introduce 26, and then.
Did I do that?
Yeah, you skipped, but you need to call the.
26 then.
Yeah.
26.
And then he'll turn.
Okay.
So I'm skipping 25?
It was pulled from this agenda, and it'll.
I read the quiet part out loud?
Yeah. Yeah.
And, and so.
And just go to 26 now.
Thank you. Okay, so we're moving. Okay, for anyone on the cameras, yes, I'm blushing. Okay, so we are moving on to resolution number 3, that is 23-06-26, declaring the necessity to acquire the property for the Park Avenue parking garage expansion. General Manager Dessou.
Thank you. Thank you to our attorney for catching us on both. Presiding Officer Gonzalez and board members, when TriMet acquires property by purchase or through eminent domain, Oregon law requires the board to declare the necessity and the purpose for the property. So this is the purpose of the resolution to come before you regarding the expansion of the Southeast Park Avenue parking garage. At our April 26 board meeting, the board authorized a design build contract with Skanska USA for the parking garage project. For this project, TriMet needs only to acquire a temporary construction easement on an adjacent parcel owned by the Portland Milwaukee Elks Lodge. Fortunately, this is the same parcel of property that we leased from the Elks for overflow parking from the garage before the pandemic. If the resolution is approved and TriMet negotiates an agreement with the Elks, we will use the property for a period of approximately 16 months for construction parking and staging. Payment for the temporary easement is included in the project budget, and I recommend your approval.
Thank you, General Manager Dessou. Is there a motion to approve the resolution?
So moved, Kim.
Thank you, Director Kim. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Director Frisbee. It has been moved and seconded. Does anyone wish to make a comment before we move to vote? All right, seeing none, I'd like to move to the vote. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? All right, seeing none, motion carries. Thank you very much for that correction. Now we're moving on to resolution number 4, according to my agenda. And this is resolution 23-06-27. And this is authorizing a contract modification with Stan Tech Architecture Incorporated for design services for the 4th bus base facility project. Mr. General Manager, your comments?
Presiding Officer Gonzalez, members of the board, if approved, this resolution sets into motion the full design of our 4th bus operations facility, or bus base, as we call them. TriMet purchased a 30-acre property on Northeast Columbia Boulevard in 2018 for future service needs, housing more buses, and that included our zero emissions buses. The site was previously used as a heavy equipment maintenance facility, and initially it was believed some of these structures that were on site could be repurposed and converted for bus maintenance and operations. The aim was to minimize construction costs and meet an expedited timeline for expanding TriMet bus fleet. But the project was put on hold during COVID, the pandemic, and before being revived in the summer of 22 last year. We've determined that renovation and temporary use of the existing buildings is not going to be feasible for ongoing needs. There's extensive work at the site that's needed. The project now requires renovation and or demolition of existing structures, installation of utilities, a stormwater system, construction of a bus maintenance facility, and an operations building and infrastructure for zero emissions buses, plus other site work. The design is currently at 5% and will require another 2 years, with the intent to begin construction in 2026 and have the facility up and running in 2029. That's necessary to meet the projected service needs, as well as to provide overflow space while our main bus operations headquarters on Southeast Center Street is renovated to accommodate zero emissions buses. The board previously approved a $5.69 million contract with Stantec for initial design services. Stantec continues to be the most knowledgeable and qualified design professional for the project. TriMet has renegotiated a new contract amount for the revised scope of work. This resolution requests authorization of $22 million in additional funding for Stantec to complete the revised design work. So the total amount of the contract is included in the engineering, construction, and planning division budget. Stantec has a workforce that is 21% minority, 35% female, and it has a goal of using DBE subcontractors for 26% of the work and has achieved 25% so far. I do recommend your approval.
Thank you very much for that presentation, General Manager Dessou. Is there a motion to approve Resolution 23-06-27?
So moved.
That was a pretty even one. Thank you. Director Kim for the motion, Director Edwards for the second. It could have been the Doppler effect, but it showed up a little later. Thank you very much. Are there any questions or comments before we move to vote? Director Edwards.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yes, General Manager Dessou, I would like to ask, I know this is kind of out there a little bit, but sometimes things tend to move slowly with government. Has there been coordination with PBOT to meet our schedule? Because I know there needs to be improvements made to Columbia Boulevard as well as the traffic signals at the intersection on 47th, I think it is.
Yes, there's conversation taking place, and maybe Sean, if you could give him a little bit more insight, that would be great.
Green light. Hello, I'm Sean Batty. I'm the Director of Design and Construction. That's one of the 3 departments in our Engineering, Construction, and Planning division. To my right is Nick Johnson, who's the Project Manager. Really appreciate the question, and Nick, if you could just provide a response, we'd appreciate it.
Sure. PBOT's LID project, which will provide the street improvements around our site, is currently scheduled to go to have a contractor on board by the end of this year, and the project will be in construction next year. They anticipate, for instance, that a new traffic signal at 42nd and Columbia, which is integral to our project, should be operational about mid next year. But essentially, their schedule will be out ahead of ours, and so it'll be fine for us.
Thank you.
Sure.
And I've got a question as well. Okay, thank you. I understand that a few years back when we begun this process, we had high hopes of being able to repurpose some facilities. And then a pandemic happened, and then we learned a lot about the facilities and our intentions to repurpose. Have from all of those lessons we've learned, and you know, from the sort of repivoting of society since the pandemic, are we approaching this parcel with any new ideas, programmatic elements that have changed? Are we exploring any new opportunities now that we know that we're not going to be able to repurpose the facilities?
Yes. I mean, I think we kind of buried the lead in the resolution. I think the primary thing is we are building a brand new maintenance facility and a brand new operations, very much similar to the work that we recently completed at Powell Boulevard. And so while the program is based on Powell, I think what we learned along the way is how critical that the physical facility matches that program specifically. A former executive director said something that's always stuck in my head. They said steps cost millions. And the workflow at a facility like this, every day, the efficiency of that workflow pays back dividends when you get it right. And I think when we entered that, I don't think we had that clarity, but I think as we went through this analysis and invested those funds to really understand our own workflow and our own needs, and we're comparing that with the trade-offs with using the buildings, I think that is something that we really are bringing forward and is directly a reason why I think this motion and our investment and our continuation of our partnership with Stantec makes so much sense. I hope I answered your question.
Well, thank you. It shows that we are revisiting the potential, and I'm glad to hear that it's going to give us a little more flexibility to customize. Director Lewis?
Thank you. My question is kind of like Director Keith's. It's kind of out there, but I always zoom in on keywords like must. And in the resolution, it says we must be operational by 2029. Is there a contingency plan if we're not?
Nick, do you want to start that one, and then I'll? I mean, I'm happy to, but I certainly don't want to step on my excellent project manager here.
I think the contingency plan would be just more stress on our other facilities, our other 3 facilities. So, maxing those out with more buses as we grow service, not being able to remodel Center Street, which would delay our zero emission bus plan. So being able to get electrification into Center Street so we can have battery electric buses. And so it would push all it out, and it would impact, our goal of getting to 2040.
And I might add in changes to our budget and cost.
Costs go up as time goes on.
Right,
So,
okay. Thank you.
sure.
Any further questions or comments from the board? All right, we'll move to a vote. All of those in favor, please say aye.
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 All opposed? Seeing none, the motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you. We look forward to a ribbon cutting. Yeah. All right. Now we're moving to resolution number 5 on my agenda. This is resolution 23-06-28, authoring an exemption from competitive bidding for a contract for construction services for the Willamette Shoreline Trolley Trestle Repair Project. Now, let's see here. I've got a note here to pause the Board of Directors meeting. Okay, yes. To do these next 2 things, I must pause the Board of Directors meeting in our capacity and open up the TriMet Contract Review Board. So with the authority vested in me, I would like to now open up the TriMet Contract Review Board. And with that, we will consider the next 2 resolutions, beginning with Resolution 23-06-28, authorizing an exemption for competitive bidding for a contract for construction services for the Willamette Shoreline Trolley Trestle Repair Project. Mr. General Manager, your comments, please.
Thanks, Presiding Officer Gonzalez, members of the board. The Willamette Shoreline Trolley is owned by a consortium of 4 partners, the cities of Portland, Lake Oswego, Metro, and TriMet. One of TriMet's roles in this partnership is to provide routine inspections of the corridor where the trolley runs. When issues arise, it's TriMet's responsibility to oversee the implementation of solutions. This can include design, permitting, construction activities. This particular resolution looks to the board for an exemption to competitive bidding requirements for the repairs required by this project. If approved, TriMet would pursue a competitive request for proposals. This would allow for consideration of experience and similar work in addition to price when selecting the contractor. We believe this project is unique. The board approval of the resolution will allow TriMet to select a contractor with the skill and demonstrated ability to handle this highly specialized railroad repair work while managing tight timelines with a strict budget. So the cost of the work is included in our FY24 engineering and construction and planning budget, and I recommend your approval.
Thank you, General Manager Dessou. Before I open up for discussion, do we have a motion to approve the resolution?
So moved. Kim?
Thank you, Director Kim.
Second.
We have a second. Thank you, Director Edwards. Now I'd like to open it up for discussion. Any questions or comments from the board? Director Y?
Thank you. I just have a very simple question because as General Manager DeSue said, we don't come across these types of very specialized projects very much. So my question is, what exactly does this Shoreline Railroad carry? Is it goods and services or people, or I'll have staff answer. Thanks.
The Willamette Shoreline Trolley is a historic railroad that was, it's being kept open by the operation of the trolley service. It was purchased, I want to say, in the mid-90s, and with the objective of keeping the public transit open to between Lake Oswego and Portland.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Okay. Seeing none, I'd like to open it up for the vote. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Aye. All opposed? Hearing none, motion carries. Thank you very much. Okay. We are moving now on to resolution number 6. This is 23-06-29, authorizing an exemption from competitive bidding for a contract for construction manager general contractor, otherwise known as CMGC services, for the Banfield Track Rehabilitation Project. Mr. General Manager, your comments, please.
Presiding Officer Gonzalez and members of the board, this resolution requests an exemption from the competitive low bid process. This will allow for a competitive request for proposal for construction manager, general contractor, or CMGC for improvements along a critical stretch of our MAX system. The selection, the section of track that we're talking about is between Lloyd neighborhood and the Gateway Transit Center. We often refer to that as the Banfield corridor, which is our oldest light rail corridor. It was constructed for our first ever MAX line, but now it carries routers on 3 different MAX lines, our blue, our green, and our red lines. As half of the wooden timber rail ties in that area, they date back to the original launch of MAX. And for those of you, that was September of 1986. So they need to be replaced in the next few years. And we're requesting an exemption to allow for a competitive RFP process, primarily due to the need for the large, experienced, and specialized trike contractor for this project. So securing a contractor with this type of expertise will help TriMet complete as much of the replacement work as possible with the least interruption to service. So our current intention is to do the work during the planned MAX shutdown in early 2024 for the Better Red project to minimize service disruptions. The cost of this work is included in the FY24 maintenance budget, and I strongly recommend your approval of this resolution.
Thank you very much for that presentation, General Manager DeSue. Do we have a motion to approve the resolution?
So moved.
Thank you, Director Kim. Do we have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Director Lewis. Any questions or comments from the board? I've got a brief one before we move to vote. Just to point out, first of all, thanks to the procurement team for bringing forward these resolutions. I understand that we have a lot of discussions about inclusive contracting, and we're trying to do a lot of work with our local emerging business community. And I just want to underscore that, not only for sometimes specialty services, but the reality of our market is that sometimes we don't get to have the response that we were typically used to in previous years. And I understand that even for non-specialized services, it can be a challenge to get our vendors to step forward. So for that reason, I simply wanted to underscore with both of these resolutions, when we have these highly specialized services, it's good to see that our vendors are providing some inclusive subcontracting within these services. And so I applaud them for those efforts, and I highly encourage our vendors and our procurement team to emphasize the importance of priming the pump of our supply chain when they're out doing these services, whether it's in subcontracting, in apprenticeship, or any mentorship that can be provided. The more we can walk away from these projects wiser and with more people having capacity and knowledge of those systems, the stronger we are as a region. So thank you very much, and keep up the good work, and please lean on them for that inclusive and mentorship philosophy that we've been known for. With that, I'd like to move to the vote. All of those in favor, please say aye.
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 All opposed? Motion carries. Thank you very much. And I believe we're moving back into the remainder of our business meeting now. So I reconvene the TriMet Board of Directors for our regular business meeting and bring forward the next resolution. This morning it is Resolution 23-06-30, authorizing a contract with Valleyscapes Incorporated for on-call landscape and bioswale maintenance services. Mr. General Manager, your comments?
Presiding Officer Gonzalez and members of the board, this resolution addresses contracted landscape services that are required for about 200 locations within the TriMet service district. Those locations are divided among 4 zones. This contract would apply to the procurement of services for zones 2 and 3. Zones 2 and 3 cover the areas along our max orange line, a majority of our max yellow line, and sections along the max blue and red lines. TriMet initial request for proposal brought in 4 proposals that were deemed non-responsive. 2 firms submitted responsive proposals when TriMet reissued the RFP. Valleyscapes emerged as the top proposer, as the other competitors' high pricing eliminated them from construction. However, it should be noted that Valleyscape has a good reputation and relationship with TriMet, and its proposal was found to be fair and reasonable. Valleyscape has 105 employees, and its workforce is 87.6% minority and nearly 3% female. The total contract amount is just over $2 million for a term of 3 years. The contract amount is accounted for in our facilities maintenance operating budget for FY24 through FY27. I recommend your approval of the resolution.
Thank you, General Manager Dessou. Before we move to discussion and questions, I'd like to see, is there a motion to approve Resolution 2306-30?
So moved, Kim.
Director Kim, thank you. Do we have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Director Edwards. We have a second. Any discussion or questions? Director Edwards?
Yes, I have a question regarding the general manager of Zone 2 and Zone 3 comparatively. What is the area comparison? One is obviously larger than the other, but what is the area that is considered?
Yeah. I'm going to bring up Les and Joe. That way they can give you specifics on the area.
Thank you.
Good morning. Les Spittler, Director of Procurement Supply Chain Management. Thank you, Director Edwards. What we've tried to do is divide the zones up equally geographically. So this is a zone that is both on the northeast side as well as the southeast side along the orange line and the yellow line. So in order to divide the work up equally, we've determined those geographic zones and the scope of work so that one contractor, isn't overloaded, so that all 4 contractors, all 4 zones have an equal amount of work.
Okay, I guess my question is that maybe I didn't articulate it well, but Zone 2 seems to be almost twice as much in regards to the work and labor that would have to be done in compared to Zone 3. And that's even if you look at the bid from the other contractor, it's substantially larger. It's a third as larger for Zone 2 than it is for Zone 3 in their bid. So that's the reason it prompted the question is how extensive is the work that has to be done, even though they're comparatively the same size. There's obviously some substantially different labor-intensive work that has to be done in Zone 2 versus Zone 3. And I'd just like to know what that is.
So Director Edwards, can I jump in? So I want to just get clarification. So you're comparing Zone 2 to 3.
Yes.
Is what you're doing.
Yeah.
And I wanted to ask our procurement and facilities, the areas that I called out is the orange line, the yellow line, the blue and red line consist of both zones 2 and 3. Is that correct?
Yeah.
And can you separate the two and kind of show, is it only just yellow and orange being in Zone 2 and blue and red being in Zone 3, or do you have that information?
Sure. If it would be helpful.
Microphone, please. Thank you.
If it would be helpful, we have the map that shows the zones, and it does indicate that the Zone 3 has both the blue and the red line with some of the green line where they run together, and then Zone 2 is the orange line. And if I'm understanding your question correctly, the reason why they're priced differently is those lines were built at different times with different landscaping standards, and some of that area has weathered time better than others. And we've found during the time that those zones have been in operation that some are simply more difficult and time consuming to maintain. And that's why there's a discrepancy between the two sets of prices, even though geographically they're relatively similar.
Okay, thank you. So it sounds like there may be more trees in one area than there are in the other, because that would require certainly a lot more labor-intensive work to get that done.
Sure, trees and the type of plants and other material that's in those zones. Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
I just learned of a term today, talking with staff about shade equity, about trees being in different areas, and it was fascinating to have that conversation this morning.
Thank you. I'll drop my question in, and then Director Frisbee will be. We have Director Lewis and then Director Frisbee. Thank you. That was a trick. So help me understand. I know this is an on-call contract, and I understand the Zone 2 and the Zone 3 are forecasted estimates based on the known universe. What triggers an actual service call in an on-call contract in this case? Are we sticking to the sort of known schedule of maintenance, or are there events or circumstances that either the board or the public can do, or nature can do, so that something gets elevated and brought into this maintenance schedule?
A lot of the scope of work is recurring in nature, so there are tasks that need to happen, every week, every month. The scope of work is also broken out seasonally. So come spring, we flush out the irrigation pipes so that they can, water the foliage in those areas, and then in the fall, for example, we shut down the irrigation so that it doesn't freeze. So there's things like that happen seasonally. I think an on-call event would be some sort of weather event, tree branches coming down, extra debris in sort of an area that needs to be cleaned up, that sort of thing. But I think a majority of the scope of work is sort of recurring in nature.
A quick follow-up. Do we have a mechanism for other public agencies or the public to identify things that might need attention from the landscape standpoint?
We do receive information from the public and from other agencies via a variety of different mechanisms. So yes, that does exist.
Thank you. All right, Director Lewis.
A quick question. In relation to the houseless camps that can impact, the landscape, are the costs associated with those weighed into, your bid, or is it high impact, low impact?
I would say low impact. We have a separate contract with our safety and security team to come in and clean up those camps. So the landscape companies on this contract are not responsible for doing that work.
Ah, thank you. Thank you.
Director Frisbee?
Thank you, Presiding Officer Gonzalez, who knew that this was going to be the item where we all got the questions. But since you're up here anyways, I have a newbie question, which I was a little bit surprised reading through the materials ahead of time. Between the two proposers, between the two bidders, the range in their cost estimates. Was that expected on staff's part? Is that somewhat standard? Can you just help me ground myself in that?
Sure. NADA's Landscaping, the second bidder, who was pretty high on pricing, has historically bid on these contracts and has historically been on the higher side. One thing that we're going to do is have a meeting with that company to determine maybe they're making some different assumptions than their competitors, to understand why they're not being competitive, because they also bid in 2021 when we went out for these contracts, and they were also extremely high then. So there's something that our scope of work is really complex. The price form is really complex. So I think over time we've seen lots of contractors sort of make different assumptions, and the pricing varies a lot. So I think that there's a conversation to be had there, and to help them become competitive in the future.
Thank you. I really appreciate that, and I think that's particularly important for some of the DBE firms, helping them right-size their expectations and be able to compete. So appreciate that and appreciate your answer.
Insightful question. Any other questions from the board? Seeing none, I'd like to move to the vote. All of those in favor of approving Resolution 23-06-30, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Hearing none, motion carries. All right. Now we're moving to resolution number 8. We're jamming through these. I thought we'd be taking a break by now. I'm seeing thumbs up. We're moving. Okay. Resolution number 8, and this is resolution 23-06-31, authorizing a contract with Chown Incorporated, aka Chown, for locksmith services, including master key schema development and implementation. Mr. General Manager, your comments, please.
Presiding Officer Gonzalez, members of the board, the purpose of this resolution is to identify a contractor who will create a completely new master key system for TriMet. Under the new system, nearly every keyed entry lock system that is owned and operated by TriMet will be replaced. The primary focus of the new system is key control. This will help ensure that only those who need a key get one, and those who do not need one are not able to get one. So it's important to remember that when we talk about keyed entries at TriMet, we're just not talking about doors to our operating facilities. The first priority for this contractor will be to replace the lock and key system on approximately 65 of our light rail substations. Once that part of the work is complete, the focus then will shift to the employee facilities across our service district. And for this contract, TriMet issued a competitive request for proposal. Chown was the only firm to submit a proposal. However, staff believe it will provide the best overall value to TriMet. The proposed contract is for $2 million, and it covers 5 years. The services are budgeted in the Safety and Security Division operating budget. Chown has 57 employees, 12.3% identify as minority, 27.1% identify as female, and I recommend your approval of the resolution.
Thank you, General Manager Dessou. Do we have a motion to approve the resolution?
So moved.
Thank you, Director Y. Do we have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Director Edwards. I'd like to move us now to discussion. Any discussion or questions? Director Edwards.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. General Manager, I have a question in regards to how often will this have to be changed, given that there'll be a change in personnel, and if there is a change in personnel during that period of time, what is the contingency to make sure that we still have integrity in our key lock system?
And that's critical, is the integrity piece, and this is one of the reasons why we move into this location. But Andrew, talk a little bit about the contingent and also the plan itself.
Yeah, I mean, this is part of a multi-year effort that we've been engaging in, and we have worked with Chown in the past to sort of do a rekey. Can you hear me all right?
Thank you.
All right. So, this is a 5-year contract, and we want to work with a vendor that can continue to meet our complexity. It's a pretty complex process. We've risk ranked these items, and we're going after substations first from a safety security standpoint. You can understand why, and then moving into our other facilities. But we think that the contract is appropriately set for a 5-year and with the right amount. Does that answer your question?
Yes, that does. I have another question, though, as well. In regards to that, looking down the road, do we have we thought about a way to change our locks, perhaps, so they're not maybe keyed locks? So there's another alternative to using those that so that we don't have to come back and have someone, a contractor, actually physically rechange the locks and the keys on the second go round?
Yes, in all the capacities and areas that we can do electronic right now, you'll notice out on the system, you'll see a lot of those card readers that we use for access in the buildings, et cetera, even out in some of our substations, et cetera. In all those situations, we're proceeding with that, where we have the right electrical hookup and capability. I will say that in the situations where we're continuing with a key, we're moving towards a simple key master key process, which actually tracks and identifies who has those keys. And so that's kind of a technological electronic advancement that's coming out of this as well, is that we can track every single one of those keys and who has access. I'll tell you, in the past, we have had sporadic success with that. So this is more part of our kind of hardening our system and making it more access controlled for employees in particular.
Okay. And if we do go electronic, what kind of safeguards would we have in place so that they won't be hacked?
Yeah, that would probably, I think we have a very robust IT cybersecurity department now. I think you've heard some presentations related to that. That's not my necessarily area of expertise. I'd probably defer to my colleague Ethan Benetton on that in terms of, but I don't think this is I do know that he's been heavily involved with the substations in particular, because that's a sensitive area for us, and I think he's confident in this as well. I don't know, I'm speaking for Ethan, but.
Okay. Thank you.
Director Lewis, I see you have a question.
Thank you. Sometimes I know that security on some of the locks, especially the electronic locks, can be really robust. Will there be, or is there the capability of tracking a person through the system? I know there is the back, on the back side, the recording of disgruntled employee who's left. You can turn off the, the access. I don't know, is that part, or you're upgrading to that? Mm-hmm.
Yeah, good question, Director Lewis. We already are in a position right now with our electronic key card access that we can track whoever, what time they paged in, when they paged out, et cetera. When employees leave, if there's any kind of disgruntled issue there, or if they're under investigation, et cetera, people understand that we can immediately eliminate their access to the facilities, and we do that on occasion, obviously, as we operate. The physical keys, this will allow us to at least understand a little bit more about who's accessing those facilities and who can access them through that simple key schema. So we're getting there, and I think as we progress, this is going to be an area we're going to be continually focused on.
Okay. Follow-up question. Is there any federal, or do you know of, or have you accessed any federal funding for the security of, substations. I know that's been really high in the news of, access to a lot of our vulnerable systems.
Yes, we take advantage of TSGP grants, in particular, transit safety grant programs. And you've heard some of them mentioned by me, the intrusion detection out of the Washington Tunnel. When we have the right set of facts, we go after those grants pretty heavily, and we take advantage of them. Honestly, our surveillance has been built out a lot by our TSGP grant capability. So the FTA has been a part of us hardening, and they're a part of every transit industry right now in the safety security realm. I do think that as we go into the future, we're going to see more of these types of grants that we're going to take advantage of.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments from the board? All right, seeing none, all those in favor of approving Resolution 23-06-31, please say aye.
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 Aye. All opposed? All right, motion carries. Thank you, gentlemen. Now, I'd like to move us to what looks to be our final resolution of the day. Resolution number 9. This is 23-06-32, authorizing a contract with Reese Complete Security Solutions, Reese, for wayside CCTV cameras and associated technologies and devices. General Manager, please, your comments.
Presiding Officer Gonzalez, members of the board, the purpose of this resolution is to engage a contractor to provide closed-circuit television, or CCTV, security cameras to TriMet. The contractor will also provide associated devices such as audio equipment, intercoms, strobes that's used for deterrence, and mobile camera trailers to enhance our security and safety operations. In addition to the equipment, the contractor will be responsible for its repair and, when needed, replacement. For this contract, TriMet issued an invitation to bid and received 2 proposals. Reese submitted the lowest responsive bid with a proposal nearly $1 million lower than TriMet's independent cost estimate. This resolution would authorize a contract in the amount of $2.1 million to Reese to cover a 5-year term. The amount also includes a 15% contingency for potential unanticipated expenses. The total is included in our safety and security budget. Reese has 68 employees, 20.6% identify as minority, and another 20.6% identify as female, and I recommend your approval for this resolution.
Thank you, General Manager Dessou. Is there a motion to approve Resolution 23-06-32?
So moved, Kim.
Thank you, Director Kim. Is there a second?
Second.
Ooh.
I'm going to give it to him. Out of respect.
Director Edwards has the second. Thank you, Director Frisbee. I heard them at the same time. Now we'll move into discussion. Any questions or comments that anyone on the board would like to make? I have one. Thank you. So we clearly see an independent cost estimate that looks like it was the anomaly in the mix. Could you just speak a little bit on what we learned from the procurement process and how we evaluated our independent cost estimate versus where the bids were landing?
Yeah, so we require an independent cost estimate for every procurement. We usually ask the project manager to basically complete the same bid form that we're going to ask the vendors to complete. We have partnered with Reese for years for this type of work. This is not the first time we have this contract. I'm guessing that there was some assumption based on escalation of labor or escalation of some of the technology, hardware, and software here that the project manager thought would cost more. We always love when bids come in below the the independent cost estimate, but this is more significant than what we typically see. So yeah, we just need to have a conversation with the project manager to see where the assumptions were off. But I think with supply chain issues as they have been since the pandemic, we do typically encourage project managers to think about some sort of escalation factor with their independent cost estimate to account for those types of things.
Thank you. It clearly offers some lessons to learn, and I echo the sentiment, how nice when those lessons are that we were probably more above and not below where the market is. Any other comments or questions? You good? Okay. Well, with that, I'd like to move to vote. All those in favor of approving Resolution 23-06-32, please say aye.
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 Aye. All opposed? Seeing none, motion carries. Thank you very much. Okay, I'm going to take a sip of some water this time, and I'll recognize we do not have any ordinances today. So, pardon me. What I'd like to do now is move us into a little bit of board housekeeping business. So finally, this morning, we get to talk about board officer positions. As you may have heard, we had some board members that have completed their terms, and we have some new board members that have recently joined us. And so with our outgoing board members, Director Simmons and Director Bauman, we have also seen the departure of our board president and vice president, respectively. They held those officer positions since July of 2021, and I held the position of secretary and treasurer position since that time. And consistent with Oregon State Statute, ORS 267, we are required every 2 years to elect new board officers. And guess what? That time has come. And it is that time for us to conduct that business today. So I'd like to open up that discussion with the board, beginning with acknowledging that I think the promotion Director Edwards has been giving me all morning is starting to resonate. So I will gladly express an interest and a willingness to serve as the board president for the next 2 years. And I also know that there's some board members that have been thinking about some potential seats that they would like to fill. So before I say anything more or offer up a motion, I'd like to see if anyone here would like to offer up a motion. We do have an entire slate to fill. We have the president's seat, which is responsible for leading the board meetings. We have the vice president's seat, which is responsible for presiding over the meetings in the absence of the president. And we also have the secretary-treasurer seat, which is responsible for presiding over the meetings in the event that the president and the vice president are unable to, as I am doing today. So with that, I'd like to just open it up, and I believe, Director Kim, I saw yours go up first, so I'll yield to you.
I'd like to nominate Director Kathy Way for the secretary-treasurer role, as well as Dr. Lewis for the vice president role, and Director Gonzalez for the president role.
Second.
I hear a motion and a second, and if I captured that correctly, the motion was Director Y for the secretary-treasurer role, Director Lewis for the vice president's role, and Director Gonzalez, that's me, for the president's role. Did I capture that? And we have a second? Yeah. Okay, with a move and a second, I'm going to open that up for discussion before we get into the vote. Does anyone have questions, comments, or otherwise words for the board? Okay. Well, seeing none, I'd like to move us into the vote mode. So I'll stop there and just ask, all of those in favor of the slate as nominated and seconded this morning, please say aye.
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 Aye. All opposed? Okay. Motion carries. We have our slate, ladies and gentlemen. Congratulations. Oh my goodness. I'll practice more next time, I promise. Thank you. With that, if there's no other business to come before the board, then it's time for me to adjourn the meeting. Look at that, 11:08. Our next regularly scheduled board meeting is going to occur on Wednesday, July 26th, back here at the U of O Downtown Portland building. I hope everyone has a wonderful rest of their day. Be safe wherever you may go.
Jeez.
Thank you.
Whew.